Hello there, and welcome back to Adventure Planes. My name is Godeful, and we are already in our 5th episode, in which we are going to continue to clean up the front area of the park. So we will do a lot of fencing, a lot of gardening, add a lot of foliage. We will build toilet buildings, and so on and so on. And we're building the beginning of our transport system, a monorail. And I'm quite interested in what you think about my supporting idea for this one, because I already told you that I didn't quite like the idea of the supports of the monorail covering up the view over the lake, so I had to build my own custom supports for it, and I'm not quite sure how I like them, but we'll come to that later. Right now we are going to not really finish, but to add a little bit more to the looping coaster station, with a little bit of lighting inside of the station, with the cables connecting all the lights, and I think we are working a little bit with the pathway too in just a second. A little bit more cables. Yeah, I see. But now we're adding lights to the queue area, and here a little bit of fencing too. That is something I will say an awful lot in this episode, because sadly I had to do all of that before moving on into the next episode with the next area, which is already kind of planned, is maybe too much to say. I have an idea what I want to do, I know where I want to do it, and that will happen probably in the next or the one after the next episode. Now you can see me building the custom support for the monorail I talked about a few seconds ago, and I really like the idea. I fiddle a little bit with it in an empty map where I test a few themes and so on, and I like the version there better, I think. I'm not quite sure, maybe I have to compare them again, but this one is kind of okay, but I get the feeling it is a little bit too slim for holding up the weight of this monorail. Even if I imagine that it is steel reinforced inside of the wooden beams, it just doesn't feel completely right. So maybe I either have to change it, or maybe you'll say, no, it's fine, this will hold up the monorail, then I will go for it, because the optics of it, the looks of it, I like. Because it really achieves what I wanted to do with this one. I wanted it to have this natural feeling, that this historical feeling, not that there is all these modern steel beams throughout the whole park. Instead, I wanted to have this wooden beams with the stone foundation to be on the shoreline here, so it looks a little bit more natural, and you can see that this works out quite well. Here you could get a little glimpse of the view, not really for long, but I think you know what I mean, and I think you could see it in this few seconds there. Yeah, now I'm finishing placing the supports. I don't know if I want to take those supports throughout the whole park with the monorail, or just for this front area, and maybe later on we'll move on to the modern ones. Maybe custom-made modern ones, maybe not. We'll have to see what looks best. Maybe I'll use those... historical is the wrong word. Those older ones, those wooden ones throughout the whole park. We will see. That's something I will decide on the fly. So now we are starting to build the station for the monorail. This is quite a big building. I'm not quite sure if I like how big it is, but in the end it fits quite well into the whole area in the front, so I don't really care. Yeah, nothing very special is happening here. We're just adding a few walls, a few wooden beams, so the usual work we have to do with the buildings. Yeah, for the new area I want to build, now I can talk a little bit about it, because there is nothing really special happening. I'm thinking of a Scandinavian village townish area behind the area with the Vekoma looping coaster. This should be the first area that is heavily themed. By heavily I mean themed at all, because right now we don't really have themed areas, a part of the main street, and the main street is just a big medley of all the themes we will have going on in the park. My idea is that the Scandinavian village is one of 2 promenade theme areas. So we have the Scandinavian village with all these living houses I already have in the main street area, and some port buildings. And the second area I want to build is a Louisiana promenade style. Not Louisiana, sorry, New Orleans inspired style promenade, where we will have a pier going on, where the people can go on to the end of the pier. There will be a restaurant for them to eat and to sit directly on the lake, if you'd like to say so. And yeah, I really like the idea of that. I'll have to see how it works out, that we have 2 heavily themed areas on the lake very nearby each other, but I think it'll work out. So now you could see me place the roof of the monorail station. I really like the idea of these fences, using them for the roof. I saw that actually on Rudy Rankamel's channel, because they replace kind of our lack of glass in the game. We don't really have anything that is see-through glass. Yes, I know we have this round roofs, but they don't really work for the size I wanted to take here, and we don't really have free usable non-grid items with a glass texture. Maybe there will come some of it in the future. Even though Frontier said there won't come anything like that, they already added something like this with the last DLCs they brought out. With the I think the Knight Rider and the Monsters one had something like that. But not sure. I hope there will come there is something to come that would be really great. So now we're adding a little bit of foliage in front of the station to blend it a little bit more into the area here. Sorry, my throat is demonstrating. And now we're building the back entrance to our blockhouse park gift shop, which we built, I think, in the 3rd episode. This one will look a little bit, I don't know, Spanish, Mexican. It's not really meant as a theme. It's just more like, here we have a back entrance. We don't care too much about the theming, but it shouldn't look ugly either. It's just for people who want to walk from this side and there, they won't have to look at a concrete wall or something. Now we are going to build the last building of the main street, and I kind of realized right now, because I talked about the New Orleans part of the park and on the lake, this could be the building that is hinting towards the New Orleans part. I just built this thing randomly because I needed something at the end of the main street, and this was the best I could come up with at this point for a corner building. There will be a large tower in the end, not really that large, but I think it will be the largest building in the whole main street. And I think if I will add a little bit to it in the next episode, this could be the building that is hinting at the New Orleans area. This is, I think, quite a great idea. Maybe you can tell me if you like the idea or not, if you see the building not really finished, but in its end state at the end of the episode. If you like the idea of this being the foreshadowing to the New Orleans area. So now again, a little bit more foliage, a little bit more fencing and terrain painting and so on and so on. This is, like I said, we are really cleaning up the front. We are finishing everything so we can move on to the next part. And there you saw me again fighting with my nemesis, and I can tell you that we are winning this fight in this episode. I will finish this restaurant building in front of the looping coaster, so we have this out of the way, and I'm quite happy with it. I had to cheat a little bit because in the start I wanted to get 2 shops in there, one Chief Beef and one, I think it was Galpy's Soda shop, I'm not quite sure, and I removed one of those, so it's a little bit easier to build in this this octagonal shape. And that's what's end up helping me to be able to finish this building. Now you see me looking a little bit around in the park after placing the street in the backstage area, the surface road, service road. And I just spoke German, that's funny. Yeah, so now you can see me again doing a little bit of nothing, just looking at the park, but not for too long. I have to finish something, so I will do that. Now I will delete the roof of the corner building just to put it in better this time. The first time it wasn't quite aligned to the grid. I have no idea why, but the second time it worked out quite well. Yeah, now we're finishing up the backside of the Scandinavian buildings, nothing too special. Did I have double footage in here? No, I didn't. No, I don't think I did. I think I just have a deja vu. Yeah, so now we're finishing the roof. And we're working a little bit with a sidewalk kind of thing here in front of this building. Something I didn't really do on the whole main street, and I don't think I will add it to the rest of the main street. I think I just leave it as it is, and I'm quite happy how it turned out in the end here with this coaster. Not coaster, building. Why the hell did I say coaster? So now you see me building the tower I talked of in the beginning. Not in the beginning, a few minutes ago actually. And this is something that really bothers me. The windows and doors, you can't really attach them by themselves without doing work that they will align the right way to the towers, to those round wall pieces. And that is something that I find really annoying, because you end up using too many items, which could lead to performance issues in the future. Well, maybe it's a little bit hypocritical to talk about performance issues because I have to use 4 to 10 items for one window if I use 200 of them for building one roof. But hey, that's just me. So now we're finishing up this sidewalk thing around the tower. I will fill up this area with a kind of fortune teller wagon in the future, or something like that. I'm not quite sure what it is right now, but it has to be there because something has to stand in this little corner between the back entrance to the shop and the wall. It would be too open if there wasn't anything. Now you can see me adding some lights. At first I think it would be interesting to use the icings to make the holes for the lights, but then I don't like it how it looks and just use the normal holdings the game already gave us. Now you can see me struggling a little bit with the detailing and the wooden beams of this building. I will get it right quite fast, but it was a little bit of fiddling on where to get what wooden beam and how to put them in there. Now I use the wooden beams while they go a little bit out of the building to cover up the transition from the stucco trim to the corner, so it won't overlap with the path. Now we have to cover up a little bit our custom roof with the wooden beams, something I'm getting quite used to right now. I think I could have built the custom roofs a little bit better, but it's a little late now, so we'll just have to live with it. Adding a little bit decoration to the windows, slightly turning the flag thingies there so they won't clip into the windows and look like they are aligning with the windows over them. Adding a little bit flower boxes to the windows, and I really have to stop saying a little bit. That's happening very often right now, and I just wanted to say it again. Wow. Yeah, so here you can see me finishing up the front of the main street. This one looks kind of boring, and it's supposed to, because this one is like the main now I'm missing the English word again. It is the main building where all the backstage work happens. So park planning and marketing and so on and so on. Not offices. Maintenance is not the right word either. Oh, god damn it, I don't know it right now. That really annoys me because I know it's an easy word. But hey, that happens, so just have to move on. Adding a few lights and a security camera in front of the entrance door to this building, so no guests will enter the building by fault because they think there's something in there. And again, we're doing some fencing. Hey! That didn't happen for quite a while. Yeah, so we're just pushing around the fences here and moving on along the path. And actually, what I realized while watching this is how easy and short this looks in a time lapse. What you have to realize is that this whole episode, it lasts like 30 minutes, the time lapse, is a little bit more than 6 hours of playing. And out of that, I get 30 minutes of time lapse. Maybe my time lapses are a little bit too fast. I have to change that in the future, but even so, it just looks like it's happening all on the fly very fast, but in reality, sometimes placing these fences really becomes a chore. And that's something I have to work with in the future. But that's something you don't really see when you watch these YouTube series, because everything looks so easy and so fluid, but sometimes it's just an illusion made by the time lapse. And now we're getting to the part I already told you a little bit earlier. A little bit. I told you earlier where I actually finish this octagonal building here with the chief beef inside. This time everything works really smooth. I don't have any problems building the roof. I don't have any problems aligning something. Everything works just fine, like I wanted it to. So we're done with it. Finally, we're done with it. I think now you will see me celebrate, yes. And I'm really happy that I made it this far with this building and didn't scrap it or build a flat roof, because I thought of it. I thought of maybe I just should scrap the idea of having this roof like I build it right now and put in a flat roof, because it will go faster. But in the end, I'm really happy with the result, and I'm really happy I did it. Now I'm building the entrance path to the backside of the restaurant, so the stuff can get in there. And again, fencing with the small gate, not gate, I don't know. I put a rope in front of it, so it signalizes to the guests, you can't go through here, that's closed up. And if the stuff has to go through, then they are then they just can take the rope away and go through it. Now a little bit. Now more covering up of the backstage area behind the restaurant, and I'll just look around doing nothing again for very long this time, actually. Okay. Now you can see me doing a little bit lazy fencing. I don't know if I will change that in the future. It's just I didn't have the spirit to make the fencing for all the flat rides in this episode, because I already did and will keep on doing so much fencing. I just didn't want to have anything to do with fences anymore in this episode, so I just did it this way. Here you can see me building the second restaurant area in the park. The first one was this one with the little dish disposal in front of the wooden GCI coaster, and now we have something in front of the looping coaster too. So if families are going to the park and some don't want to ride the coasters, they can hang out here and eat something they bought at the shop we finally finished. And I wanted to add a little bit of lighting. This is quite funny. I think I just won't bother anymore and just say it. Now we're adding lighting for the area here, and the planters will be filled with a few flowers. I don't know if this is too much color, because what you have to think of is if you're doing foliage, color is expensive, green is cheap, so never use too much color. But I think this is an area where the guests will be a lot, so I imagine that it would be nicely colored with the foliage. I think it's right. And we don't have to keep it too realistic, I think. But in the end, this series is all about realism, so I think we shouldn't discard it. Now you just saw me build a bench and a desk. I don't know, desk is not right. But you know what I mean for this area. And I really underestimated how big these actually were. And how weird the scale on Planet Coaster works, because I thought, okay, I will get 5 or 6 of them in this area while building them. And then I moved them over and I could barely fit 4 of them in there, and even had to shorten one of the benches of one of these combinations because it wouldn't fit otherwise. Yeah, so this is something Planet Coaster really does really weird, this whole scaling thing. I don't know if... probably a lot of you know Planet Bro Coaster, and that's something they're talking all the time about. And I realized this too while building this one. Everything is just so big. And that's kind of weird, because you always have to build smaller than the game wants you to. And this leads to a lot of awkward situations. But in the end, it works quite well. Sometimes there is something a little bit weird if you use doors or windows and you just see, okay, they are really big in comparison to other items. But I guess if you keep an eye on it, it's not too big of an issue. Now you could see me finishing the New Orleans building, and now I built a cover-up catwalk building for the block breaks and at the looping coaster, because I thought it would look quite nice to have it there, and there should be something if the coaster has to stop there because the other coaster didn't make it or something like that, so you can actually get off the coaster at this stage and you can operate from there. So I built this little it's not really a house, it's just to cover up a little roof for this place, and then there will be a ladder to go up or down from this little building here. Yeah, a lot of placing wooden beams, angling them in different directions so it doesn't look too plain, and yeah, we still have an awful lot to go. I don't really know what to talk about right now. What interesting could there be to talk about? Maybe the next coaster I am planning to do. Some of you may already have seen this. I recently made a video where I asked Reddit and YouTube to teach me a little bit about flying coasters, because I want to add a B&M flying coaster in the future in the park. And I'm not quite sure where I want to do it. I think I will do it in the Scandinavian area though, which would be quite soon. And I'm kind of thinking to build it in a mountainish themed area where it will interact with a mountain rafting, which goes through the different buildings and will be themed a little bit fjord-like, probably inspired by the I think it's called Fjord Raft or something like that in Europa Park in Rust in Germany, another park that is fairly similar to my other inspirations, maybe a little bit more themed than Heide Park and Hansa Park, but still they're quite close, I guess. And again, more fencing. This won't stop this episode. And but I'm quite happy that I got it finished, so I don't have to deal with it in the future. But probably what I've learned from this episode is that I will throw in some fencing every now and then in future episodes, so I don't have all of it in one place, so I have nothing other to do. Now you can see me build a little seating area here. And I want to get those benches in for the guests to rest on it. But the game didn't want me to, because the path under this cover-up with the castle roofs was was a little bit weird. So I said, screw it, I'm going to build my own benches and put them in there. So now, sadly, they aren't functional, but they look nice. So I got that going. And I think this finishes up this whole area quite nicely. I'm putting in a few benches and litter bins in this area so the guests can sit somewhere actually functional. Fiddling with the station to make it more fitting to the path and finished. And I'm thinking of putting a photo shop beneath the station where you get through if you exit the coaster, so you can buy your photograph if you were on the coaster. Probably the photo will be taken either under the bridge before the loop or under the bridge after the block breaks where I built the cover-up recently. Now we are going to start fencing the queue area for the roller coaster, and this is something that made quite a lot more fun than the rest of the fencing, because here I could actually build a building while fencing. I did it in the wrong order though. Like you can see, right now I built the floor, and then I realized, oh damn it, I don't have the footprint of the path anymore, and I don't know where to put the fences, so the fence would work like the path beneath the floor would. So I had to rise up the floor again and then do the fencing, so the path could go so the fence could go around the path while working, so it wouldn't look weird if the peeps are clipping through fences. And my idea of this was kind of like an overflow situation, where in the beginning of the park we only had the straight path through the forest on the left, where I now put this cable in front, which shows, okay, the overflow is active, so you have to go through all this area here. And this actually was added later in the park's history, as the park got more popular, got more visitors, and thus needed more space in the queue line. So now we build a small roof for the path here, for the queue line, where the people can stand under if they're waiting for the coaster. I don't know if it will actually fill up the whole queue line, but knowing Planet Coaster, I think it will happen that the whole queue line is filled up, even if it is quite long right now. It is quite a lot longer actually than the wooden GCI. That's kind of sad actually, but I can't really fit in more queue line in front of the Woody. That's something I didn't really think of while building it. I think it's long enough though. Maybe we'll look into it a little bit more. Adding more fencing at the exit. Some weird 3D gizmo bugs. I don't know, maybe there was terrain. I didn't realize that it was there. I really like this fence, this pirate thing, because you can use it to build this sidewalk border stone thing without even having a real fence. And I really like that. I use that quite often in a lot of areas, not only in pirate areas. And now you can see something I'm really proud of actually, but it doesn't really make sense because there's nothing special, but I like it that much because it exactly turned out how I wanted to. I had a vision for this building, I started it, I finished it, and it looked exactly how I wanted it to, and that made me quite happy. And this is a toilet building, because I realized the only toilets we have right now are in the main shop on the main street, and no more toilets in the whole park, and that is actually a little bit too less. So I built this one right next to the Vekoma looping coaster, where it will stand in just a few seconds, so the guests have somewhere else to go. I will add another one of these, maybe the exact same one, we will see about that, next to the GCI Woody behind it, so there is a place the peeps can go to in that area. Adding a little bit of detailing, some signs, a ceiling for the overhang of the roof. And I think we're ready to move the building. A little bit backstage detailing. Yes, and now we're moving it. This is where it's going to stand. We are going to first fiddle a little bit with a path. This German-English translations get me all the time. And I can't get the path to work like I want, so I cover up with this concrete flat roof. And I think we're actually nearly done now, just adding a small connection to the backstage service roads to recycle bins, because I think toilets could actually need those. There will be a lot of trash going on in this ones. And yeah, now me looking around a little more in the park, and I think we're finished. So here we are with some cinematic shots, and thank you guys for watching again. I really appreciate it, and if you liked the video, subscribe to my channel for more, leave a like and comment what you like and what you didn't like, and yeah, I hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye!